Hey, my name's Chris Molinar, and today we are talking about the elevator pitch for real estate agents. If you've ever been asked, what kind of work do you do? And you answer real estate and the conversation starts to die, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. At a listing presentation, they might say things like, tell me about yourself, or why should I pick you? We're gonna cover all of that in this video and a whole bunch more, but in the meantime, if you want a copy and a plan of what we do in our business to help systemize and predict where our next paycheck is coming from, hit me up in the description below. You can see my email and my phone number. Have you ever heard the saying, knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here today. Now, you can prepare for improv type situations and scenarios, which is essentially what your elevator speech is. You're on the elevator, your ideal client is there, and you have 30 seconds to present yourself in such a way that you can continue to follow up and follow through, hopefully with their contact information and a good first impression. In order to do that, the best way to be prepared at all times is to always be previewing property, which is essentially getting yourself up to speed with the product knowledge in your marketplace, and also practicing your scripts. Let's dig a little bit deeper though. Remember, the reason why the conversation seems to dwindle when people say you are in real estate is because, first of all, nobody wants to be sold. But yes, everybody wants to buy. Nobody wants a real estate agent, but everybody wants their dream home. And so your job is to sell yourself. Your job is to sell how great you are at what you do and how what you do is and can help them get what they want in the time they want. Won't that be great? So when people ask you what you do for a living, you could say, I'm in real estate and you'll never believe ... I'm in real estate, but I'm in real estate and I'm in real estate and you'll never believe. Here's a situation that just happened the other day. We met with a client and they thought their house was worth X, and surprisingly enough, it was a whole bunch more than what they'd expected. Everybody was happy. We got it on the market. We sold quickly, and they ended up moving everything said and done in a matter of 3 weeks. It was like record timing, and they were so happy and impressed. It was a lot of fun. Now, that type of conversation will help maybe pique the interest in the person that you're talking to in order to keep the conversation moving forward. However, you need to remember, not every single person you talk to needs a pitch. So when somebody says, what do you do for a living? Please don't pitch them automatically. When someone says, how's the real estate market? Please don't pitch them automatically. One of the biggest problems I see with people teaching you how to do an elevator speech is to treat everybody like a dollar sign. And the truth is, all you need to do is create curiosity and establish yourself as a go-to potential real estate option for the largest number of people as you possibly can in order to build and expand your network and your database, so the law of averages over time will always work in your favor, so that no matter what, you will be able to predict when your next paycheck is coming. So when someone says, how's the market? You can say, well, it depends. And they might say, well, it depends on what? And then you might ask a question like, well, what neighborhood or what segment or sector of the market are you specifically referring to? And you might go ahead and say one step further and say, I know you're not looking to buy or sell, but everybody's always curious. What neighborhood are you in? And when you say that, you then know, well, here is a whole bunch of information that I know because I always preview properties in Dundonald neighborhood, and I know that this week I noticed this sold, that came up. Here's an anomaly or something different or unique or a talking point about that neighborhood based on my experience that we can now use as a conversation piece so that I can present myself as a real estate authority, somebody with confidence, somebody with knowledge. They might also have a unique perspective, and you might be able to throw it back on them and say, what's your perspective on the market these days? Because depending on what they do for a living or what their personal perspective is, might actually be valuable, and it might actually be something that you don't see. Maybe they are in the media, maybe they're in finance, maybe they're an economist, maybe they're a teacher who sees relocation all the time, or a police officer that sees relocation all the time, and they see things from a unique, different perspective that you don't see. And it just creates dialogue and open conversation. And if the conversation goes very well, you might be able to probe the conversation that says, well, do you know of anybody that's in the market? And they might actually bring it up before you even ask, and they say, well, actually, my buddy Joe at work has been talking about what he sees online and his mortgage is up for renewal and he's considering moving. And then when your turn to speak comes up, you could easily say something like, do you know if Bob has a really good real estate agent working with him or for him already? And if they say, I don't know, or maybe, or yes, whatever they say, if they don't have a real estate person working for them already, you can say, hey, next time you talk to Bob, can you check in with him? And then I can ask you in about a week or whenever. And hey, be more than happy to help however I can. Here's something else that I noticed in the market. And if you want, I could send you an email so that you have some information that you could forward to Bob as you talk to him next time, so that you're not just feeling like you're pitching him, you're actually adding value to the relationship you have with him, giving him an information piece that he will find value in, regardless of whether or not he does have a real estate agent. You'll be like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for this piece of information. And with that in mind, even if you are a brand new real estate agent, you can always get to know your monthly market stat sheet, which is a perfect content creation piece, by the way, for social media. And you can also do this in your email newsletter. And it is actually a valuable piece of content that you're sending out, not just spam. And if you learn to understand unique different metrics comparing this year to last year or this year to 2 years ago, and you give a summary of the market from a perspective that the average agent might not give, people will see value in that. And that by itself could perfectly be that piece of information that you say, here's 2 gold nuggets that I noticed in the market that you might not have seen or heard about. If you want, I did a market report on this. I did a video market update on this. What's your email? I can send it to you so that you could forward that on, or that you have it for reference. It goes into quite good detail if you are at all interested. If your mortgage is up for renewal and you know that interest rates are currently climbing, or could be, or we don't know, or there's uncertainty, and here is something that could be helpful for you. Great. By the way, can you just text me your email address? I find that it's that much more easy if you send it to me that way. And here's the cool thing. You've now collected their cell phone number and their email address, and or one of the easiest ways when you're in person networking with somebody, be like, well, hey, do you mind if I can just enter my contact into your phone so that I can send the text message, make it that much easier. Use your own discretion in order to base where you're at with that conversation, how much time you have before you have to wrap up that conversation, but never give out your business card. If you give out your business card, you've already lost the sales opportunity right then and there, in my opinion. You go from you are in control of the situation to you have a 1 in 100,000 chance of them reaching back out to you. They are more than likely going to lose the business card, even if they have good intent to follow up with you. They are not the salesperson you are. And if you're in control of the follow-up process, you are much, much more likely to have a successful result. Now, you can ask them for their business card. You could ask them what's their most preferred method of contact. And depending on where the demographic is, it might be a lot easier to say, hey, are you on LinkedIn? Hey, are you on Facebook? Hey, what's your email? Hey, are you on Instagram? And when you ask those questions, they may say, no, I'm not on LinkedIn very much. Well, cool. Why don't you just text me your email address? Matter of fact, I can punch my number into your phone if that makes it a whole heck of a lot easier for you. If the rapport is already building, if the conversation is going well, if it's early in the process, just be like, hey, can I find you on Instagram? Can I find you on LinkedIn? That's probably one of the easiest ways. Then they might say, yes, 100%, no problem. And if they're not on social media, hey, what's your email? On social media, it's important also to remember that your bio or your tagline on your profile picture, your timeline photo, or whatever's the background image on your profile, all of those things are your first impression. And those are essentially the elevator pitch that you're giving to people every time that somebody that doesn't know you stumbles upon your profile when they're looking for somebody to offer the service that you essentially offer. So when you're having conversations, if you can easily identify what the common problem is for your ideal client, the solution that you offer to that ideal client, and a reason why they might reach out to you or contact you if and when the time is right. When you're previewing properties and staying updated on the market, keep in mind that if you have real-time data, it can actually trump experience in many cases, because people know that when they look at the market stats, that's yesterday's history. When they get live in-person activity responses, they know that what you are doing in the marketplace today and what you are seeing in the marketplace today is real-time information and real-time data that, in my opinion, will always trump what happened last year what happened the year before. It does not matter. Yes, experience is good for situational nuances, but the nuances that you have in real time could definitely set the edge when it comes to securing a new client. When you're previewing property, you need to have certain metrics in your mind. You need to at least be able to, at minimum, recognize every single neighborhood and have something good or have something notable to say about every neighborhood that pops up in conversation. You also need to make sure that you go out and preview in person as much of the brand new product as you possibly can, especially because it's, first of all, usually if it's finished, it will then be vacant in most cases, so it's very easy to go out and look at it. And then also, new product is always the most likely to catch you off guard. Even if you know your marketplace very well, the new product, if you haven't been in the new neighborhoods, you won't even recognize the street or the crescent or the type and style of home, and you won't understand the trends for what actually is in demand right now as far as finishes, as an example, in a brand new model home, and or what floor plans are attractive, and or what price points are attractive. All of the different things that you can and will see in person that you wouldn't see if you were just looking online. And at minimum, especially when you are new, make sure that you drive all of the neighborhoods. Make sure that you drive all of the crescents. Make sure that you can recognize the address when it pops up, so that when somebody mentions a property in passing, you have something intelligent to say because you know the area. People have sometimes said that taxi drivers and real estate agents know the city better than anyone else, and I don't deny that. There is some truth to that. Preview property to expand your service market area, maybe to acreages or to the suburbs potentially. Preview properties in order to expand your comfort zone in terms of price point. If you pick up a big investor that wants to buy a whole bunch of property in the inner city, but you don't understand that lower end price point or the infill market or how zoning has rechanged in the downtown core, get into researching and expand your knowledge in previewing property there. As well, you can do the same thing when it comes to high-end properties. If you're a little bit uncomfortable with all of the custom homes and the custom floor plans and the custom finishes and which neighborhoods the high-end buyers are buying in and what types of architectural styles are currently on trend, you can also spend some time researching and previewing property in those price brackets, so that when opportunity presents itself for you to have that conversation, you are already armed with the information that you need. Regardless of whether you've been actively working that price point, you've been actively working it without having a current active client for that, which is essentially the best way to practice and put experience in your tool belt without actively doing it in person on the public. And what I always say is this: you can either practice by yourself when it comes to scripts. You can repeat your scripts out loud so that they roll off the tongue naturally. You can, practice with a partner. You can role play somewhat realistic conversations back and forth, or ask another agent what they would say in this type of scenario, which is always valuable. But your improv, your practicing on the public, is always the best type of practice that you are going to get. But always remember that if you aren't doing the other two and you make a mistake when you're practicing on the public, it costs you a commission check, which could mean $6,000, $8,000, $15,000 is the mistake that you made in developing or cutting your teeth, getting the practice that you need in order to perform better when you're out in the marketplace. So keep that in mind. Here's an example of what might come up as an experience in real time when people ask you what's happening in the market. What I've personally noticed after doing a market evaluation between $500,000 and $600,000 in Saskatoon for a double attached garage style single family home within the last year, we've noticed X number of sales. And a notable mention from that was the fact that there's currently today a 4-month supply of inventory in that price bracket, 95 to 98% of them being brand new homes, which to me is an anomaly, speaking to the fact that, number one, home builders are probably feeling a little bit of a pinch right now because most of that stuff is brand new. And I believe that there was only one fully developed option in that price bracket right now, which would be attractive for anybody that's looking at putting their home on the market, considering the resale in the current market today. What we've also noticed is that we did a market evaluation for $200,000 to $250,000 for an apartment style condo, and And for that specific type and style of product, we saw somewhere close to, I believe, 2 months supply of product on the market, which, what does that say today about affordability? Historically speaking, we've almost always noticed 4-month, 6-month, up to a 12-month supply of that exact specific type of product. And likewise, for the double attached garage style homes, it's typically 4 to 6 weeks on market for that type of product. Usually moves very well. So what does that say about where the attention is right now with interest rates climbing? People are starting to shift and behave differently. And I also foresee somewhat right now that there's hesitancy in the market and what I call a little bit of a water behind the dam, which is optimistic for anybody looking at putting their house on the market right now, because I know that things will shake loose and you want to make sure that you take full advantage of the opportunity when things do spike, because people always need to buy, people always need to sell. And right now, sales are down, but listings are down by more than what sales are. So if you're thinking about selling, things are leaning in that direction. If you're thinking about buying, there is also opportunity right now with distressed sellers that have been seeing their property on the market for longer than what they have before recently. So it depends on what type of scenario you're in, but can you see how your scenario might fit into that picture? Now, your call to action could always be very simple and straightforward. You might simply ask, hey, we should catch up for a coffee and talk a little bit more about the market. And that would work really well, let's say for a home builder or an investor or a mortgage person or anybody relevant to the market, or somebody looking to buy or sell even in the next year or 2 years. If you're at an open house, you might also have a previewing appointment to go look at 3 to 5 properties right after your open house, so that that's the easiest way to segue from an open house potential person to another appointment afterwards. And you say, look, I'm actually doing another open house. I'm actually going to look at another vacant house right after this in the neighborhood, similar to what you're talking about. You're more than welcome to come with me if you so choose. By the way, what's your cell phone number? I'll text you on my way over there and give you the address just in case something pops up. If you are in conversation with somebody that is interested in doing something and you have the knowledge because you've previewed property recently, they mention something that they're interested in, and you ask them, did you see the property over in Silver Spring neighborhood? And they say, no, they didn't. And you say, I think it is over on XYZ Crescent. I remember the price point. I remember exactly what type and what style of home it is. It literally just popped up like 2-3 days ago. If you want, would you be open to having me send that over to you? I'll cross-check it. Can you text me your email address and I'll forward that over to you? Generally speaking, as a newer real estate agent, you always want to make sure that you over-prepare for all of your appointments. At a bare minimum, even if you can't predict and determine the price of their home when you go on the first appointment, turn it into a 2-step appointment. As a matter of fact, plan for that in advance. Tell them that before you go on the appointment, that you're going to collect the information and follow up again later with a suggested price, because you need to see it in order to evaluate it. But when you go on that first appointment, if you've already done a title search, if you've already done any research on them, any research on the property, so that when you show up, you have all of this information that they are impressed to see that you've done, you're always going to be way ahead of the game. And if you're competing with an experienced agent who did not do all of those things, you might be able to catch one of your competitors resting on their laurels. If you're going to an open house and you want to present yourself with confidence as a newer real estate agent, bring an experienced mortgage broker with you to the open house to have a perfect segue in conversation to be able to piggyback on somebody else's knowledge. You can also do the same thing on your first listing appointment or your first few listing appointments. You could bring a trusted, experienced, veteran real estate agent with you to make sure that you are presenting with confidence the best that you can. And again, use statistics, let's say from your company. You could say, our company sold 30 houses on the weekend, and here's what sold in this area by our company. And at the end of the day, you're just looking for somebody who can confidently get your home sold. And if you know who your ideal client is, when they ask you what you do and you already know what their situation is, you could say something like, I help ambitious, successful, motivated home sellers like you get the most amount of money possible in the shortest period of time. As a matter of fact, we just had a client who we put up the sold sign for them, and the sigh of relief on their face was really what made my day and actually made my year. That's why I do this business. And so at the end of the day, isn't that what you really want? So I'm curious, you'd mentioned that you're looking to get your home sold. In a perfect world, how soon would you like to get the ball rolling? Great, cool. Tell you what, I'm just on the run. What's the best time for us to get together? I've got available, let's say tomorrow afternoon around 3, or I could do the following day around a similar time. Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you then. What's your cell phone number? I'll send you a little bit of additional information on the market ahead of time. Perfect. We'll see you then. Hope you found some value. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you want that plan to predict your next paycheck, find my information in the description below, and we'll see you on this video next. Have a fantastic day.